Hello and welcome to what should have been another installment of Operating System from Scratch, except this time it won't be. And the reason is, well, this isn't working well enough. Every episode I upload takes a huge amount of work on my part of preparation. Almost the entire 2 weeks between episodes is taken by preparing the next episode. And this is fine by me if people enjoy this content and watch it. Except this video was uploaded almost 2 weeks ago and it only has 11 views. And while the total number of views that the channel is getting, even on a weekly basis, is not bad per se, we do see that there is a problem, that the returning viewers aren't returning. And we can see that the further along the video is, the less views it's getting. The first video I did got 298 views total, and over the last week, most of the views went there. And I'd say, okay, maybe I'm not doing good enough videos, which is a valid criticism. But the thing is, if you look at the individual videos analytics, and this is the last video uploaded, the one that got disappointing 11 views over 2 weeks. So what I'm seeing is that despite the disappointing number of views, if we actually look at the statistics of the retention of the viewers, we see that of the people who actually started viewing, a great many actually made it through the entire thing. We do not see any area where people just drop off or say, okay, I've had enough. And we actually see that with the fact that despite the video being about 20 minutes, it got almost 2.5 hours of view over the same time period in which it got 11 views total. So I don't think it's the quality of the videos. Instead, what I think is happening, and this is backed up by talking to people who I know watch or at least started off with a channel, is that people get acquainted with the channel, respond exceedingly positively, say, wow, that's a great thing, I want to watch this, and then sort of watch a video 2, 3 and taper off. And I think what happens is that the content it's not suitable for the way people watch YouTube. The content requires you to have dedicated time to watching this video. And that's not what the frame of mind people are when they log on to YouTube. And so they get notification for a new video and they go, oh, right, I wanted to see that. Not right now. And they postpone, and then 2 weeks pass and they get another notification. And at that point, they're 2 videos down, 3 videos down, and they say, well, I'm never going to catch up. So they keep being subscribed, but they never get around to watching the videos. And that's 100% on me. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, the customer is always right. And what this spells is that operating system from scratch, Saros, in its current form, has to change direction. I have to do something different because this isn't working. Now, I can lower the technical level of the video, but I really don't want to do that. To do that means I think there are a lot of other channels that do view the way operating system are built on a less in-depth level, and I don't want to be a tang along. So Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pivot to something completely different. Or, well, I don't know about completely different, but definitely different. And it's a bit of a scary pivot for me because it means I'm going to be talking about the subject matter I'm less familiar with. I will be learning the subject matter as I post content about it. Holding 1 second before we get to what our pivot is, let's talk about this. This is an Apple II compatible. It's referred to as GTC or generic Taiwanese compatible. And it's a genuine 80s artifact. And it actually bears some connection to the pivot I'm talking about. Right now, I'm faced with another problem. And it's one I've already solved, but I did not take pictures of the process I was going through. And it is this. This keyboard doesn't sufficiently work. There are 2 rows of keys that don't work. They don't produce any effect. Now, typically would say just fix the keyboard. However, this is not as simple as it sounds. The problem with fixing the keyboard is that this is a matrix-based keyboard, which means that if we look at the back, we have rows of conductors that are scanned in order to determine which key is pressed. And each key is soldered onto the PCB in order to connect 2 wires. Now, these are the rows. There are definitely also columns. The problem is that if we have 2 columns of keys not working, it means the problem is with the columns, the vertical aspect of the matrix. However, that one is buried behind the soldered on keys and their panel. So there is no easy access to fix it. The fix itself is probably as easy as fixing a bad conductor or maybe replacing a capacitor. But the problem is figuring out which. And there is no easy way to do that. However, if we look at this socket here, this socket used to have a cable, which is this cable, that connects to the Apple itself. And the thing about this connector is that we actually have it spin out and it's fairly straightforward. It has 7 pins for the value of the key pressed. So only the ASCII values themselves, no extensions. And if you want to do anything fancy like another language, say Hebrew, you have to have those characters take the place of something else in the ASCII table. In the case of Hebrew and I think most non-Latin languages, that was the lowercase letters. And you would just set the bits here according to what character you want to do, and then flip the strobe value based on it says here 10 microseconds. So you give the strobe for 10 microseconds, and that tells the computer that there's a key waiting. And pretty much that's it, unless you wanted the reset. And what we can do is we can take an Arduino Nano and sort of figure it out. So we say, okay, we want the ASCII values to arrive on pins 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the Arduino. We have the strobe pin on pin 9, and the reset pin will go in pin 10. And then during setup, we'll just set all of those pins to output mode, assert the strobe as low so it will not be in effect, and the reset is reversed, so we assert it as high, again, so it will not reset automatically. And then all we have to do is read a byte from the serial and convert it to, well, it's already ASCII, so just set the bits of the outputs accordingly, and then set the strobe pin high, wait a second, wait a little while, and then set it low again. And the only other thing I did, this code is actually from the same website we got here with a few bugs fixed. The only other thing I did was to say if a certain sequence is sent, which translates to control backslash, then we call do reset, which sets the reset pin low and then high, so we can actually reset the Apple II. That's one in my extension. And we're almost done. Connect the ground. Next, connect the data buses. So that's D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, D7, D8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data lines. And then we want the strobe and the reset. And we want a common ground. The Arduino will get the power from the computer, but we want it to share ground with the Apple so that when it asserts high, it will know that it is asserting high. At this point, we want to install this inside the computer. I've taken out the keyboard. And we've got this reference of where everything goes. Except the connector is actually like this. So that's how we will hold it. And all that's left now is to connect the USB, load PuTTY. I've took the liberty of setting a large font to match. And then we can turn on the Apple. And if all goes well, we can give it the keyboard. And that's a fairly good teaser for where I want to take it. Because the thing is, this computer is fairly simple affair. And as you can see, it's fairly well documented. Which brings us to our mystery project. An Apple II is a very simple machine. CPU, memory, and very little I/O. What I want to do is to build one from scratch on an FPGA. FPGA, or Field Programmable Gate Array, is a chip that was manufactured with no set logic. Instead, we can use a special language to teach it how it should behave. I've spent the last 2 weeks learning one of those languages, called Verilog, and even created a simple introduction project. And I'm not the only one. People have written entire logic modules in Verilog, many of them open source. For example, there are at least 3 different open source implementations of the 6502 CPU. This is the same CPU used by the Apple II computer. In other words, all we need in order to install a CPU into the FPGA is to download some software from GitHub. I'm really excited about this project, specifically because it is a chance to do something I don't already know how to do. I'll give a proper introduction with my plan for moving forward in the next video. For now, I've changed all of the Saras videos into unpublished. This means they should no longer pop up in YouTube searches, as I don't want to attract more viewers to a content that doesn't match the channel. If you're one of the few who does manage to survive the density of the Saras videos, thank you. Still, You can still view them by going to the channel, clicking playlists and viewing them through the OS from Scratch playlist. You can also subscribe to the playlist. Not that the near future will show new videos, but still. Thank you for watching. Means a lot to me.